Hi, everyone, and welcome once again to the 16th Annual Global Ethics Summit here in Atlanta and coming to you virtually from around the world. I'm your host, Bill Coffin, and I am delighted today to introduce you to my first guest of the day, Karen Moore from Sounding Board Compliance. Karen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Bill.
So I've been looking forward to speaking with you because I know you are all about connected compliance and why a great compliance program is one that does not live in a silo and has a real sense of kind of connecting the dots with other functions. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. I do get accused of using connecting the dots a little too often, but I think it's a really important way of looking at our programs. It's very easy to take each of our program elements independently, work on them, work on our risk assessment, work on our code, work on our training, without taking the time to see how they flow one to the other.
Sure.
So for me, when you start with a risk assessment, as we all should, to build our program, you should take those mitigation measures and think all the way down to the end. What am I going to try and achieve with this? And then fill in the middle. How am I using all of my program elements to get to a measurable, effective mitigation before I start all over again with a new risk assessment?
Yeah. So where do you find organizations often kind of stumble in this and or get in their own way in terms of not having their program as connected with its allied functions as possible?
Well, I think one of the things, Bill, is the failure to take the available information and try and look beyond the obvious. So if I could take a really simple example.
Sure, yeah.
A lot of us use training completion rates as a measure of success.
Yeah.
If I've pushed out good training and I can get to 95%, because there's always going to be that 5%, right? I can get to 95%, I'm good, I'll move on. I've got a lot on my plate. If I start looking into where that 5% falls, is it really just the people who are on holiday or maternity leave or don't have a working computer? You know, they may need to chase. Are there parts of the organization, say there are 3 teams where there's actually a 50% completion rate and that completion wasn't even done on time? To me, that already sends up a red flag that I should start looking into. What else can I know about those teams?
Right.
What kinds of reports have we gotten? What kinds of failures did they achieve in their training? What questions did they miss? What's not working? Is there a commonality? And sometimes you'll find that, for example, all 3 teams have new managers.
Yeah,
so
right.
Maybe new managers
Sure.
are an issue for me, and I need to take that information and start to say, maybe new managers need a toolkit or they need a talk from me. Or maybe it's a really high-performing team with a manager that is sending the signal on purpose or otherwise.
Yeah.
This isn't that important. Don't do the training, and maybe I need to have a different conversation with that manager.
Indeed. So in keeping with something that Erica Salmon Burns said yesterday, which was she wants everybody at the Global Ethics Summit to make 5 new friends and learn 4 new things. In the interest of that learning 4 new things piece, I'm wondering, is there an example of something very simple that you wish you saw more organizations do, that it's within everybody's reach to easily kind of connect that program, make it a little bit more, internalized with everybody, that you just don't, it's a kind of a missed opportunity. You wish more companies did it, and it's so easily done.
Yes, I would say the one thing that's important is to develop a list of program effectiveness measures and then try and shape your program around that list. How am I going to measure this? What can I do to make sure that the measurement is a successful measurement?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, it's a time crunch sometimes. We just don't get that granular.
Yeah. So you and I recently had the opportunity to work together on a wonderful report that's being co-published by Ethisphere and GAN Integrity about third-party risk management. TPRM has kind of swallowed the sun in certain ways, just because it's become a point of interest of universal activity. But apart from that, are there other? And it can either be that or do you see other trends that are arising that might provide compliance teams with a special challenge or opportunity in the context of this? A great program is a connected program. Do you see any challenges or opportunities that are arising that people should be mindful of?
Yes, I would say at least 3. One is TPRM, which really has grown exponentially almost.
Sure.
And so the importance of really onboarding a good TPRM program, I think, is critical. The other thing is just the scope creep for compliance. Compliance is so well positioned in an organization to take a view of the organization that other
Yes.
functions don't have. And so things tend to land on our desk, don't they? You know, it's ESG, it's DEI.
Yeah.
So as new risks come on, we get this kind of scope creep where we've got the structure in place, but we may not have the subject matter expertise.
Yeah.
That's the second. The third, which I think is a huge opportunity, frankly, is this whole concern about deregulation and a deregulatory environment, which we're seeing not just in the US, but with the whole CSRD, CSDDD,
Sure.
efficiency movement. We're seeing some things kind of walking back from where they were. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for compliance teams to engage with the business, to say, look, absent regulation, and some of that regulation maybe was getting in our way, what's important to us?
Yeah.
The fact that FCPA may be differently enforced doesn't mean we're going to start bribing people tomorrow. The fact that the SEC is backing off of some reporting doesn't mean that we're going to start being not transparent with our shareholders. So I think having those conversations to say, wow, in a deregulated environment, we can breathe and get back to what's important to the company.
Yeah, that regulatory walk back is something I appreciate. When we were working on our project together, I got so focused on the EU, supply chain, due diligence thing, and I was not really preparing to be ready for. Oh, by the way, stop everything because there's an omnibus bill now that actually. I mean, life is moving pretty quick, right? So you can miss it if you're not paying attention.
So true.
I want to walk back to a point you just mentioned a moment ago, which is the scope creep of compliance. You know. For so many years, a lot of compliance teams really wanted that seat at the table. They wanted to be the people you go to. A lot of teams now are very, very high functioning. They're very integrated. They're doing terrific work. And as a result, though, it's kind of no good deed goes unpunished. They got the scope creep. How would you recommend for a compliance team to be able to say no against that scope creep, but yet still maintain that notion of, but they are integral. They do want to be invited to the party. They do want a seat at the table. How do you find that sweet spot as a team?
Ooh, it's really challenging, Bill. But one thing that I always do is try to split all of my risk areas into 3 categories. So these are the things I own, soup to nuts. These are the things I co-own, maybe with one or more functions, and these are the things I'm supporting. So trying to, instead of saying no, trying to say, look, I'm happy to support you. I've got a policy structure. I've got training structure. We can even do investigations, but I can't own or even co-own the content of this risk for you. That's one. The second thing is really proving yourself, roll up my sleeves, useful to every function and every part of the business, so that you have a lot of credibility. So you get the seat at the table. Sometimes you're more the catalyst than the owner. You're just, I can get things going for you and you trust me.
Indeed. Well, I sure appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your insights with us today. If people wanted to continue the conversation with you, where can they learn more?
Well, I'm here at the conference. So I'm really welcoming learning and talking to a lot of people over the next day or two. Otherwise, soundingboardcompliance.com is my email, is my website.
Fantastic. Well, this has been another live edition of the Ethicast here at the Global Ethics Summit in Atlanta, Georgia. Karen, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone out there, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again soon. Bye now.